What's going on, Saints fans? This is Ross Jackson with Canal Street Chronicles. The New Orleans Saints get a huge win against the Atlanta Falcons with Taysom Hill at quarterback in place of Drew Brees in his first career start. And, of course, he got a lot of help from another dominant defensive performance. That's what we're going to be talking about on today's What Just Happened. Welcome back to another week here at Canal Street Chronicles and the What Just Happened series. We appreciate you as always for being here. Please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Let us know how you feel about the Saints' victory as they host the Atlanta Falcons to get away with a win here, 24-9. We're just going to recap the game, talk a little bit about how they performed, talk a little bit about Taysom Hill's performance, the defensive performance, hit some top performers on both the offensive and defensive side as well. And then we'll take a quick look and start to turn our focus over to the Denver Broncos coming up in just a few days here with the next game on Sunday, the Week 12 matchup that kicks off the 3-game road trip for the New Orleans Saints as well. So let's start with a little look at this game real quick. We'll start off with the fact that, look, Taysom Hill came in, got his first start, got his first win, didn't change too terribly much of the offense in order to make it work for him. They did simplify it a bit, the number of routes that were run, the reads, things like that. But you saw him take, 14 of his 30 dropbacks from under center. You saw him not force the ball downfield, only a 6.3 intended air yards per average or per throw average, which wasn't that far of a venture away from where Drew Brees sat at 5.6. His time to throw, Taysom Hill's was about 2.48 seconds, not far away from Drew Brees' 2.46 over the season. So you saw them really settle in. And again, he completed more than 78% of his passes as well. He was 18 of 23, no passing touchdowns, but did run for 2 touchdowns. So that's really where you saw the difference in this game. In terms of what they did with Taysom Hill as a passer, he was very Drew Brees-like, or let's say Teddy Bridgewater-like in terms of replicating Drew Brees' offense. He was able to do that pretty well without having to change anything or make anything feel unfamiliar for the rest of the offense. But then he just added some additional elements to this team, and Sean Payton leaned into those every now and then. Look, Taysom Hill has the ability to create with his legs if the play breaks down. We saw him do that. He had 10 total rushes in this game. 6 of them were design runs, but 5 of those design runs were all called in the fourth quarter with the Saints leading by 8 or more. So they didn't force the run at all, and Taysom Hill only scrambled 4 times in this game. So when you look at the design runs versus the scrambling and improving, you didn't see him force that part of his game too much. You didn't see them try to shoehorn him or shoehorn the offense to fit him in any way either. But he added some of those elements. He added the escapability. He added the ability to hang in the pocket a little bit longer or move around in the backfield a little bit longer and allow some of those big routes to develop down the field. We saw him complete passes of 44, 19, 25, 23. So we saw him push the ball downfield a little bit more than what we're used to seeing in terms of the vertical offense, but still not really doing anything that was unfamiliar for this team. The one thing that he also added, though, was play action. 43.3% of his dropbacks, it was technically 13 out of 30. One of them ended up getting called back because of the holding penalty. That was the big deep touchdown to Emmanuel Sanders. They got called back. That was on play action as well. But you look at the numbers for Drew Brees over the last few games. Let's see, 16.2%, 14%, 15.2%. Not a lot of play action in this offense, but you saw them utilize it with Taysom Hill because he was able to take some of those big 7-step drops, the athleticism, allowing him to diagnose the pressure before coming out of the break. It was really, really good stuff where they were able to add a little bit that was sort of unique to Taysom Hill while still not overhauling or revamping the entire offense and keeping it familiar. We also saw him score another touchdown within the final 2 minutes of the first half. That's the second game in the row, but the 8th straight game in which the Saints have scored, whether it be a touchdown or a field goal in those final 2 minutes of the first half. We saw 3 rushing touchdowns in this one, 2 from Taysom, 1 from Alvin Kamara, scoring his first ever touchdown against the Atlanta Falcons. It was his first career touchdown in his 7th game against the Atlanta Falcons. That one's kind of hard to believe, almost, honestly. And then you also saw Alvin Kamara for the first time in his career not catch a pass in a game either. You saw a lot of Latavius Murray catching passes out of the backfield for this one. So it was the first career start, first career win from Taysom Hill. I think that he deserves to get another opportunity upcoming here this weekend, going up against the Denver Broncos in Denver, Colorado. So we'll get to that a little bit more, but we also need to talk about the Saints defense. The Saints defense was huge in this game. 8 sacks, 2 interceptions. They also had 11 quarterback hits and 11 passes defensed as well, which is a season high. Not the same as pass breakups, but still very, very good stuff. This was a great game by the Saints defense. He did a very good job taking away everything on the short and intermediate areas of the field, forcing Matt Ryan to hold on to the ball, look for passes deeper down each sideline, the perimeter, middle of the field. They forced him to look deep, wait for route concepts to develop. And because of that, they were able to get a lot of pressure on the Falcons quarterback and force him to make mistakes. And that's something you can do when it comes to Matt Ryan. The one thing that I would just love to see more from the Saints defense, 8 sacks, not a single time did the ball end up on the ground. No forced fumbles in the backfield. And that's something you would like to see a little bit more of. But hey, you got to give a shout out to some of these guys. Trey Hendrickson got 2 more sacks in this game, which ties him for the league lead in sacks, along with Myles Garrett with 9.5. We just saw Cam Jordan wake right back up going up against the Atlanta Falcons. 3 sacks in this game. He now has 21 sacks against Matt Ryan alone, which is an NFL record for the most sacks from an individual defender on an individual quarterback. We also saw 2 more sacks from David Onyemata, who's having a great game. There is still, or a great season rather, there are still parts of his game that you'd like to see him improve, but obviously he is making a big impact, even when Sheldon Rankins out. That's a very good opportunity and really taking advantage of opportunities rather for David Onyemata. And then we also saw a sack from Demario Davis as well. Demario Davis continuing to get freed up all along the defense to play along the line of scrimmage, to be able to play in the middle. Quan Alexander, who was the trade acquisition at the trade deadline, has just been a fantastic get for the Saints. Before the Saints ended up, and I'll have more on this over at Canal Street Chronicles later on this week, but before the Saints ended up trading for Quan Alexander, so weeks 1 through 9, the average NFL passer rating across the NFL allowed over the middle of the field within 15 yards was 102. The Saints were allowing 5 points higher than that at 107. That's a considerable difference. Ever since trading for Quan Alexander, which granted is a small sample size because it's only 2 games, but over those 2 games, the Saints right now, the pass rating they're allowing in that same field where they were originally allowing 107 is now just 46. Absolutely incredible what he's been able to bring to the team. And obviously, he's not doing that by himself, right? He's affecting guys like Malcolm Jenkins, like Demario Davis, like CJ Gardner-Johnson, freeing them up from some of the responsibilities that maybe they had to carry with Alex Anzalone on the field because of how rangy and how well Quan Alexander plays sideline to sideline. He's freeing up some of those other guys to really have more, do the roles that they're more, let's say, accustomed to and more effective in. So those are the things that I'm really looking at when it comes to Quan Alexander, what he's been able to bring to this team, because he's been outstanding. The other thing that I'll mention from the Saints defense here is that, again, they shut out a team in the second half. They continue to either shut out teams in the second half or allow them only 1 score in the second half. That's a big deal for the Saints defense because the Saints offense continues to be productive 60 minutes through a game. This is a defense that has allowed only 8.3 points per game allowed, 13 sacks over the last 3 games as well, and 8 of them, of course, came against the Atlanta Falcons. They were doing a great job in coverage as well. Calvin Ridley limited to 5 catches. He did gain 90 yards, but still 5 of 9 there. And Janoris Jenkins did a great job in coverage against him. Ended up getting an interception there as well. Julio Jones, 2 of 2 in terms of when he was targeted, but only 39 yards. Remember, the Saints played this game without their starting cornerback in Marshawn Lattimore. That was Patrick Robinson for the most of the game on Julio Jones. Julio Jones was in and out of the lineup because of a hamstring injury, yes, but Patrick Robinson did a very, very good job when he was in there and continues to fill in very well whenever Marshawn Lattimore needs to miss some snaps. You also looked at no catches allowed in this game to the tight ends at all. That is huge, especially when you have Hayden Hurst, who started off the season with Atlanta just on fire. And the connection between he and Matt Ryan was absolutely there. But no catches at all allowed to tight ends in this game, and only 2 allowed to running backs for 7 yards. So they really dominated all over the field on this one. In the red zone, they held early. The Falcons ended up driving into the red zone. The Saints held and allowed only a field goal there. And then after that, Atlanta never returned to the red zone ever again. Younghoe Koo had a nice game, picked him up on my fantasy team right before the game. He had 3 field goals in this one, but no touchdowns for that Falcons offense. Let's get to some of our top performers for this episode. We'll jump over back to the offense for just a second. I want to shout out the Saints run game as a whole and those 2 running backs. Alvin Kamara did a great job on the ground when he got his opportunities. He wasn't the most dynamic Alvin Kamara that we've seen. We saw him miss a couple of cuts. We didn't see him at all in the passing game. Again, no catches in this game for the first time in his career, but still was effective when he got the ball in his hand and still had the ability to make and break away for a couple of nice gains. But really, Latavius Murray was the guy in the run game here. Let me say the guy out of the backfield here. 4.7 yards per carry for the Saints run attack, 168 rushing yards, 13 carries by Alvin Kamara, and then you also had 12 carries from Latavius Murray. So really nice even split there. But Latavius Murray getting involved in a couple of big passing plays out of the backfield as well. Michael Thomas came back in this one, 9 catches on 12 targets for 104 yards. He did have one slip right through his hands. Joked around that Taysom Hill had a fastball on him. And so we certainly saw that. Alvin Kamara, sorry, I want to add this into Alvin Kamara, even though he had a light day, he still did become the first player in NFL history to record 500 receiving yards and 500 rushing yards in his first 4 seasons in the NFL. Michael Thomas also broke the record for most catches in the first 5 seasons in the NFL as well at wide receiver. And then Emmanuel Sanders, 4 catches on 5 targets for 66 yards. Would have been more than that, but unfortunately, the big touchdown ends up getting called back because of the holding penalty on Eric McCoy. Want to shout out Cesar Ruiz as well, allowed only 1 hurry in this game. Jumping over to the defensive side, Demario Davis just fills the stat sheet again for the second week in a row, led the defense with 7 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits, and a pass defense. And then Janoris Jenkins, 5 tackles, 5 passes defense, and an interception. And then, of course, Cam Jordan, who I think should be in the running for Defensive Player of the Week this week. 4 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 3 quarterback hits, and then, of course, 3 sacks as well. And then Onyemata and Hendrickson each had 2 sacks in this game. Again, Hendrickson tied for the league lead with Myles Garrett with 9.5 sacks on this season. So that does it for the game recap portion. Now looking ahead to the Denver Broncos game, I think this is going to be a really interesting one. I think we'll see Taysom Hill get the start again, but I'm going to be really curious to see what the run game looks like. We saw a lot of running in between the tackles up against the Atlanta Falcons, which makes a lot of sense. Their second level linebackers are very athletic, but they're not the biggest guys. So if you can get those offensive linemen to the second level, which the Saints did really well in this game, then you get to take advantage of the run game up the middle. Not so much the case when it comes to the Denver Broncos. May actually be a better idea to attack the perimeter in the run game. So I'm looking for a lot of outside zones, outside runs, a couple of those maybe toss plays that you would usually see from Alvin Kamara as well. So be really interested, or even stretch plays to Alvin Kamara as well. So be really interested to see how different the run game looks. And if maybe because of those outside runs, you get a little bit more boot action as well in terms of the additional play action plays that you're seeing with Taysom Hill under center. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this. I think this is going to be a nice battle in the trenches as well. 2 very talented defensive lines, 2 very talented offensive lines in this one, with Denver getting healthier with Graham Glasgow, but also a familiar face in DeMar Dotson for Cam Jordan, also starting back at right tackle for the Denver Broncos. So that should spell some more success, continued success, hopefully, for Cam Jordan and the Saints defensive line. But what's really going to settle this game down is going to be how careful Taysom Hill can be with the football. Does he give you another game to where he doesn't lose it for you, which is, I think, all that you really ask for in this situation, to where you're standing in for a Hall of Fame quarterback on a week's notice. But also, you get the opportunity here to see the defense really try to put this one away again, getting into the mind of a young quarterback in Drew Lock for the Denver Broncos. Thank y'all very much, everybody, for tuning in to another episode here at Canal Street Chronicles. What just happened? We'll be back with you next week. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and check out canalstreetchronicles.com. Got all the Taysom Hill news you could ever imagine over there, as well as talking up this defense and taking a look at this matchup coming up in Mile High up against the Denver Broncos. We appreciate you being here. Don't forget to comment below too. Let us know, how did you feel about Taysom Hill's first win? What are your expectations for him moving forward? And what are your expectations now for the Saints, who sit at 8-2 and at the top of the NFC, sole possession of the number 1 seed in the NFC as of now, after this big win for the Saints as they continue to roll along through the stretch of the season? We appreciate you being here. We'll holla at you next week.